Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
There's something wrong. There's something wrong. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it's there. Like a splinter, driving you mad.
Bring the ship up to broadcast depth. We're going in. Taking Neo to see her.
See who? The Oracle.
Welcome aboard, everybody. We're happy you could join us for what we hope to be another round of insightful discussion. My name is James Sangster. I'm the founder of Houston Ghost Research. HGR is a spiritual crisis intervention and paranormal investigation group in Houston. I'm also the author of Help, I'm Haunted, available on Amazon Kindle. Joining us, as always, is Keith Davis, our co-host and fellow intellectual. Tonight's discussion is going to be interesting. It's very thought-provoking. Joining us this evening is Akelta Wilde. Like most interesting people in the world, she too has taken the road less traveled. And for her, it certainly made all the difference. She runs a discussion forum named Satan and Sons and has been working with demons and embracing the darker energies her whole life. She enjoys teaching and guiding others who are drawn to walk the dark path, as she puts it, and how to stay in balance and how to stay grounded when dealing with dark forces. She's also passionate about studying and learning and various dark creatures that are out there. I really can't say enough about her as a person. I'm thoroughly impressed, and I'm honored that she gave of her time to join us. And I know a lot of people have preconceived notions about this sort of stuff, but I encourage you to keep an open mind and listen to what she has to say, because she's both articulate, intelligent, and I think she's definitely pretty well balanced. So with that, we'll jump into the interview. So to kind of get the ball rolling here, what does Akelta mean, or where did you get that online alias?
Okay, well, my name Akelta is actually my spiritual name. In many different spiritual paths, you get gifted a name at a certain point in your journey. And with me, my spiritual name came one day when I was meditating. And I was actually looking for a connection point to connect myself to my higher self. And the name Akelta flashed before me. And I just felt such a strong resonating vibration with that energy that I knew that was my spiritual name. And it had been gifted to me. And that was my connection to my higher self.
So it's kind of like what, would you consider that your true name then?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. So there's a term that you apply to yourself that a lot of people aren't really familiar with. It's the left-handed path. Can you give us an idea? What is the left-handed path? What does it mean?
The left-handed path. Oh, there's so much controversy around the left-hand path and what the left-hand path is. I'll tell you what I've come to understand it as, and I know some people are going to probably disagree with me, but the actual term left-handed path came from Madame Blavatsky. She translated the tantric term Vama Marga, which means the left-handed way, which in India there are left-handed paths, which are more like the Agori. They're considered a left-handed path. And she basically brought that term with her, but she associated it with all things that were negative. Because throughout history, we see the left and the left hand as being a thing of that's negative. Even in Christianity, you look at it. Left-handed people at one time were considered evil. The Protestants used to call the Roman Catholics left-footers. And homosexuals at times were called left-handed. It was like everything that had to do with evil and bad and unclean, it was the left-handed path. That's the association it got. When really, it's not that at all. It's basically, I see it as another path to divinity. If we look at the Christian worldview, they say that Satan actually sat on the left hand of God. And if you look back at some of the older mythologies, it almost appears that Satan sat on the divine council. The divine council has always fascinated me because I always see the spiritual world kind of as divinity is the source. And then we have all the different paths, all the different gods, all the different ways that kind of come down from that source. There's all these different paths that lead to source. And basically, the left-handed ways are the ways that move, that work through the lower chakra centers. They work through getting back in touch with you, your personal power. You're taking full responsibility. You're taking full accountability. You become the God and the master of your world. You awaken your natural primordial powers, and you use that to sculpt and craft the world around you. And Satan and demonolatry and these left-handed paths that work with demons is just one way to go about that.
So would you consider, as you were talking, I was sort of making some mental notes, it almost sounds like your definition of the left-handed path is sort of the quote-unquote road less traveled. Would you say that's accurate?
It is a road less traveled. Not a lot of people are called to it, or if they are, I mean, in society today, it is considered an evil path. So a lot of people are shunned from going in that direction, or they're misguided when they actually go in that direction because they see, oh, I'm on the left-hand path. I've got to be evil and, vindictive and mean and throw curses at people. And it's like, well, no, it's about personal empowerment. It's about going in. It's about awakening your own natural abilities, taking control of yourself and your life, working with your primal energies, your dark energies, not being afraid of who you are as, a human meat suit, really. Not being afraid to go out there and just create the reality you want.
So what would you say to, say, Joe Bob on the street and his reaction to that, where he wants to run up to you with some holy water and start just going, the power of Christ compels you, the power of Christ compels you to save you? How would you respond to something like that?
That's actually never happened to me, but if it did, I would probably have a hard time resisting the urge to burst out laughing. It
would happen if you were in Texas, let me tell you.
Yeah, it really would.
Funny. I have a coven. I have one of the members of my forums from Texas. So
I'm curious. I wanted to ask you something else. I'm not trying to throw you off your train of thought there, but have you noticed any correlation between left-handed people in this, or is that just something that was kind of thrown together in the past out of stupidity, or is there a correlation there?
You know what? If you look throughout history, so many cultures, like even in India, you don't eat with your left hand, it's dirty. Left-handed people were evil. Left hand is bad. Left hand is this. If you were left-handed in Japan at one point, I think that was grounds for divorce. I've been looking into that because it's like, where did this concept that the left is evil actually come from? I mean, the closest thing I've found is if you go back really, really far to when we were cave dwellers, because the sun moved in the sky a certain way, they associated moving they associated the right with being good and the left with being bad. That's the only thing I can find. But it's really interesting to note that
it could have been that simple too.
Yeah, throughout our entire history, the left has been associated with evil.
So, to get back to Joe Bob a little bit, it sounds like your definition of good versus evil is not as black and white as what Joe Bob might think. How would you explain that to him?
I see good and evil as subjective. If you look throughout history, good and evil changes with the course of history. There is a tribe in the Polynesian Islands where if you're not part of their tribe, they don't see you as human, so you're food. They'll eat you. Yet in our society, well, that's called cannibalism, and we greatly frown upon that. But yet in their society, it's completely acceptable. Good and evil change with the society that you're in. That's also another part of the left-hand path, is we really look to say, okay, why do I think the way I do? Why am I following this belief system? We look at the patterns that are instilled in us in society. I mean, if you look around us, we're constantly being inundated with different thoughts, different ideas, different beliefs. We're told how to think. We're told what's the right way to do. I mean, even as simple as you've got to get up in the morning. Well, why can't I get up in the evening? These are all thoughts that are ingrained in us by our society. So on the left-hand path, we look at these and we try to release ourselves, free ourselves from all these cultural limitations and ask, okay, well, why do I think that way? Why am I bothered by this? Am I just reacting to a cultural norm? We question really where our attachments are in society and question if they're actually serving us or if they could be hindering us.
So it sounds like a very introspective, self-examining sort of thing, and I wholeheartedly identify with that aspect of it. There are many, many preconceived notions that society programs into us that we really need to evaluate and see if it is helping us or if it is hindering us. I completely get that, but why the connotation of the darker energy in relation to that? Why can't you have that with the lighter side of energy?
Because the darkness is a part of us. Everybody has a dark side, and the darkness exists out there, and the darkness doesn't have to be bad. The dark can be beautiful. The dark can be creative. The darkness is really, it's a part of all of us. It creates, like, a lot of the things in this world can be created from darkness and tragedies. I mean, look at, something dark happens, like, a situation happens where a bunch of people get killed, but then, we're inventing new safety measures. Sometimes you need to go through the darkness to get to the other side, to find out new solutions and new discoveries.
So it's almost like, if I understand it and I'm processing it correctly, it's almost like you're saying the darkness has been unfairly judged to be evil when it's just the flip side of creation.
Yeah, it's a part of it. I mean, take a volcano erupting. A volcano can decimate everything in its path. If you get if it explodes, boom, look at Pompeii, gone. But then from that, all this new life grows. All these rich, fertile plants grow. From that destruction comes new life.
And where you're kind of looking at it from the standpoint of there could be no sweetness without sorrow, there could be no happiness without pain kind of aspect, right?
Yep. And also sweet, sorrow, pain, pleasure, anger, bad, it's all just words and labels that we give things.
You're right. Everything comes down to emotion, really, and what you call your emotion.
Yeah, it's all just labels and names, and are they serving us or are they hindering us? Some people, they're just naturally darker. They're just naturally dark aligned. And to say that those people are evil is an unfair judgment on them. To allow them the space to, I'm not saying these people are going to go out and murder people. No, that's not it at all. But when you embrace your darkness, you like the night. You are drawn to darker things. You're drawn to dark thoughts, dark stories, dark imagery. And it doesn't make that person evil. It just makes them more in touch with those energies within them.
As you're describing that, I can't help but picture a sad little emo kid sitting on the side of a park bench somewhere. And I don't think that typifies what you're talking about, because you're obviously a very upbeat and articulate person. So that's probably another stereotype that we need to look at shaking off then. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. A lot of the times people who walk the left-hand path or some of the theistic Satanists out there, you wouldn't even recognize them. They wear business suits. They're well-dressed. They're well-spoken. They run, corporations. They run their businesses. They invest in the stock market. They work jobs just like the rest of us. Some of them, the best one, a little old grandmother who summoned demons in the night after all the grandkids went to bed.
Sure, but they're Satanists, so they're going to eat babies and frolic in somebody's entrails, right?
No, not at all. We actually are greatly opposed to that.
Eating babies? That's kind of the definition of being the Satanist, though.
I'm like my brother now.
Do you drink blood out of the skull too? I heard you're supposed to drink blood out of a skull, if that's correct, right?
No, the closest thing comes to Aghoris in India, where they will eat food out of a human skull, but the skull's already dead when they find it. But
it's funny how people take these stories, though. I just wanted to say that because they'll take these stories and they will associate that with these people, and nobody will do any checking to find out if it's really true or not. Now, I don't know because I haven't researched it.
It's actually, you know what? I mean, there are stories out there where they say, oh, Satanists murdered all these people. And I just shake my head and I'm like, no, that's not a Satanist. That is somebody who's trying to be dark and evil and prove something and using Satan as an excuse as to why they did that. When in Satanism, we don't do that. I mean, the closest thing we come to in our rituals is using our own blood. And that's like it.
Right.
I mean, a lot of, we don't even like, I am like the biggest outspoken person against animal abuse. And it's, if I ever caught anyone who associated with me saying that they killed like a cat in Satan's name, you would see a very dark side of me come out.
So it almost, I mean, obviously there's a large amount of jest, but we're also trying to explore the issue here. Yeah. So it almost sounds like, in my mind, I'm kind of drawing a comparison between, white people and the KKK. You know, the KKK is the darkest of the dark, of the most ignorant, of the most misunderstood. Don't judge white people by the KKK, because they're the
Please.
retards of the group.
No kidding.
Exactly. That's a really good example. That's exactly it. The KKK, they are evil, you know, or Hitler Youth. It's like, no, we don't want anything to do with them. And not all of us are like that. And please don't even associate yourself with us. Go paint your skin blue. We don't want to be associated with you.
Yeah, but it's difficult to separate yourself from that when they're proclaiming themselves as the authority on that.
Yep. And we have that as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I can wrap my mind around that a little bit, but so I have a hard time trying to picture where you came into this path and how you got mixed up in this. And it makes me think of, obviously, because my own preconceived notions, makes me think, you know, what kind of damaged, abusive childhood sent you down such a dark path? You know, were you beaten as a child? Did people like put cigarettes out on your skin and you suddenly went, oh, screw everybody, I'm taking the other road? How did you fall into this?
You know, that's funny. I had a really good childhood, actually. I look back on it, and my parents were always there for me. We went on fun trips to Disneyland. I mean, my childhood was really a dream childhood. My mom was very open. I did not have to commit to a certain religion. My family comes from many different backgrounds. I mean, we have ancestral witches in the family, so her goal was really go off and discover what your truth is. And I started searching and researching and reading, and I've been working with demonic energies for a long time, since I was a child, really. And they've just always been around me, and the path kind of evolved from that.
So you had a relatively normal childhood. That's what I'm gathering from that.
I had a great childhood. I mean, my parents, they were interested in what we did. We did family activities every night. I mean, they believe in, you know, family dinners and, you know, getting the whole family together. And I mean, really, we're all about family. So
you just simply made a conscious choice that this is the path for you, and it sounds like you researched it and I'm going to guess this is just what spoke to you.
Mm-hmm. It was the path that was right for me. It was what resonated in my heart.
That makes perfect sense to me. So you brought up, and we've said this a couple of times. So let's talk about demons. According to your own personal mythology and your own belief system, it sounds like we as a society misunderstand what demons are. So can you help us understand that? How do they compare to other spiritual entities in your mythology? You know, what about angels? How do they fit into that? How do you play with or interact with angels and spirits and that sort of thing? Learn us something on that.
Well, I see demons. They're like a species, like humans are a species. Yeah, there's different types of humans. Cats, let's use cats. Cats are a species. Yeah, there's different types of cats out there. You know, there's house cats, there's big tigers, which are the big cats. There's, you know, so many different species of cats. So demons, in the spiritual sense, they are a species of a very advanced, a very intelligent species of entities that deal in very dark energies. And they're actually, one of the ways that I can identify a demon is through their energy. All demons have what I call demonic dark energy. It's a certain frequency of dark energy. One thing, a lot of people, they like to categorize energy as, okay, it's dark. So it's all dark. But really, when you start to explore the darkness, it's like, okay, well, there's different frequencies of dark. There's different shades of dark. There's different, levels of darkness. And when you really start to break it up, you start to see there's, even within that, it's like not everything is a demon. There's different dark species that are out there. And demons are just one of the dark species. And they're incredibly wise. They're incredibly powerful. Yes, they can be dark, and yes, they can be dangerous. But there's so much more to them than that. There's a complete, well-balanced approach that's never really explored with demons. They're just categorized as evil. When it comes to angels and demons, angels are another species. Let's say angels are like dogs. So we've got cats and dogs. Well, some cats and dogs get along. Other cats and dogs fight. That's kind of how I see it.
Okay.
Is that it's not really this whole big spiritual warfare, light versus dark. It's like there's different species out there. There's different shades. There's different, alliances. There's different everything. And it all really depends on how they work together. I mean, some cats and some dogs, they get along great. They're the best of friends. Whereas some of them hate each other's guts and want to tear each other to shreds. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm trying to reconcile it with one of the mythologies I'm most familiar with, Christianity. And yeah, it doesn't jive with that mythology 100%, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not true.
Well, so I can point out some things from the Christian standpoint. One thing from the fall of Lucifer really is an embodiment to us of the left-hand path. If you look at it from a different perspective, Lucifer served heaven dutifully and then decided one day, well, I really don't want to serve anymore. I want to be true to myself. So he kind of went through a rebellious stage, got cast out and thrown down. And from being thrown down, he learned how to, I think it was in Paradise Lost, it said it is better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. From that being cast out, he discovered who he was and embraced his path, which was a darker path. He turned away from heaven and that life and became his own master, the master of his world, and followed what was right for him.
Okay. So you work with and summon quote unquote demons.
Yes.
How does, not that I want a one-on-one class or anything, but how does that work out with you? I understand you sort of do some type of demon matchmaking with other people who are exploring the left-hand path. What's that about? And
I do help people find different demonic entities to work with. I do work with, like, they're not just all the ones that are in the book. There are different ones out there. There's so many different realms out there. The spiritual world is massive. It's just absolutely massive. And even the demonic realms, to categorize and to explore them all, I mean, you couldn't do it in one lifetime. You couldn't do it in 100 lifetimes. So there's many different undiscovered demons out there. And sometimes some of them come through and want to work with humans. They want to come through and they want to help guide humans. They want to experience our world. They want to use their skills and knowledge to help show humans how to take control of their surroundings, take control of their energies, take control of their power. And so what I do is I find some of these demons and then I help them to find humans to work with.
So what's their motivation to do that? I can't, I'm trying to understand why they would want to do that.
Why would angels work with us?
Because God makes them.
Well, because the demon chooses to.
I have a question along those lines, just because, James and I are going back with this banter because we are from, Texas, and people have a different perspective about these things.
Yep.
And what would you say to somebody who says, oh, well, that girl talking about you, she's just a little confused. Satan's the biggest trickster in the world. He just was able to trick her into thinking this is okay. Because that's what people would probably say, and they would dismiss it as your ignorance into being tricked. What would you say to some response like that?
I would let them. If they want to think that, that's fine. Their opinion has absolutely no bearing on my life.
Right. So you've proved it to yourself then, and
that's
all you need.
Prove it to is me. As long as it resonates with me, that is where it comes from. It's got to come from my core, my being. And if another person wants to believe that, it doesn't matter. It's like if your belief is serving you, all the power to you. I wish you the best of luck on your path.
So if I come to you and say, hey, I want a pet demon, can you find something in like a royal purple that can match my scarf and cave? And how much is that going to cost me? I can PayPal it over.
Oh, it depends. But no, with the pet comparison, they're incredibly advanced. So they're more like a companion, a friend, or even a family member instead of a pet. Oh, sorry, that just makes me shudder.
Right.
I mean, as for cost, I mean, really, it all depends on how much work is involved in finding them. There's many different variations, many different levels of demons. I mean, it depends on how much work I've got to do at my end.
So do you ever work with angels or angelic forces? Or
I have some angels that I work with that are on more of a neutral energy. The Archangel Metatron is one of them that I frequently work with to kind of get that balanced angelic energy.
They don't seem to be upset that you're working with darker entities, or they don't really care?
Some of them are. Metatron doesn't seem to care at all.
I can just see some old lady in Texas throwing her Bible at the radio, listening to this. It's just so outside of their comfort zone.
That is one thing they say on the left-hand path. Step outside your comfort zone and see what's out there. That's actually how you're supposed to grow, too. Not push yourself outside your comfort zone, but take a step out and really question, okay, why am I believing this? Why am I having such a strong reaction to this? Why is this bothering me so much? You know, what beliefs are causing these emotional responses in me, and do they really serve me?
Well, how did you initially get involved with this? How did you find out about this initially and get into this?
Well, how I actually got into the satanic aspect was I met Satan. He came to me one day when I was in my teen years, and I realized I was home. When I saw his energy, I sensed what he was all about. I just knew, okay, this is my path. Right here, this is my path. This encompasses everything that I am.
And how did that conversation work out? I'm trying to visualize how that works.
It's an interesting story. I was actually at a Christian camp when it happened. I don't know how I managed to get roped into going there. It was a total accident. I was supposed to just go to a summer camp, and it ended up being a really, really, really Christian camp. And I was having a hard time with the energies, and I was feeling really just sad. And I was just walking through the forest one day, and I just sat down and meditated. And then he was right there, and he asked me if I was okay. And I said, no, I'm really having a hard time with this. And we just talked about my feelings and what I was going through and why the energy was affecting me the way it was and why I was having all these, thoughts. And I just didn't like where I was. And he said, well, because it's not your path. And he said, you don't have to believe what they're telling you. He says, they are on their path. You need to find yours.
So how do you know that it was Satan? How do you know that it was Lucifer? Did he have
Actually, Satan and Lucifer are two different beings. A lot of people don't know that.
Okay, so how did you know it was that particular entity? Did he have a demonic union, 407 ID card or something? I mean, how do you know it wasn't something else, just using that name?
Then, I didn't. Now I can identify his energy, but back then I was younger, and I knew he was safe because I'd already had a few instances where I'd had to deal with what I call sledge entities, which are dark entities that will attack and injure another person. But with Satan, he was a dark energy, and he had the demonic darkness. I could see it, and I could sense it. And I just felt such a warm embrace from him. And yeah, I know.
Why didn't he attack you and murder you and kill you? He's Satan. He's supposed to kill, steal, and destroy.
No. He's actually very fatherly. When you talk to him, and a lot of other people who've worked with him said that too. His energies are very fatherly, very warm, very protective.
Well, you said there was a difference between Satan and Lucifer. Could you explain that difference for us so we know?
Satan is darker. He appears as a father figure. Lucifer is very clearly, you can tell he's a fallen angel. He's got an illumination to him, but he's also got the fallen angel demon energy is different than other demons' demon energy. It has a silvery kind of appearance to it as I see it. And Lucifer also still is the illuminated one.
Well, it correlates what you're saying is in the Bible. It actually says that Lucifer was cast out of heaven. It does not say Satan. It says Lucifer.
Exactly. There you go. You got it.
So what about black magic and the dark arts, and what's that all about?
Black magic. I mean, there's many different types of energies out there. You can work with positive energies, you can work with negative energies. Black magic really comes down to working with energies to get a desired result. And depending on, it's just black. It is what it is. You use any method necessary, and it really falls on the ethics of the practitioner to decide what they're going to use it for. Some black magic is incredibly destructive, like certain curses. Some black magic, most people don't think of it as black magic. Love spells is a form of black magic, because what you're doing is you're twisting the will of another person, which is you are sculpting another person's will. So that
you're absolutely right. Just like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people, they're like, oh, love magic. It's like, yeah, black magic right there.
I wonder about the mechanics of that and how you would set that up. Obviously, if you're trying to subvert somebody's free will and you're trying to make a particular person fall in love with you, that could certainly be considered dark. But if it was set up in such a way so that you just attract love and you don't target anybody in particular, would that change the connotation?
Unless you use dark, you can use demons to do that. One of the demon lords, Lord Rossier, is a love demon, basically, and he doesn't try to force people. He sets up situations where you can attract and manifest your soulmate and the person who will naturally complement you in a loving relationship.
Okay, so what about curses? Do you do them? Do you undo them? How does that work?
Do them, and I can do them, and I can also undo them. Curses. I divide curses up into different categories. Curses they're basically, what a curse is basically a ball of negative energy that you focus on intentionally on creating. You create this massive negative energy, and then you hurl it at another person, and that negative energy sticks to them. And depending on the nature of the curse and what it's programmed to do, it can actually start to embed into their own natural energy and become a part of them, infect their thought patterns, and then they start thinking all these negative thoughts, which starts manifesting more negative energy in them, and that creates a web of negativity around them, which causes bad things to happen.
So it sounds like a snowball effect.
Yeah, it can be. Some of the nastier ones. Some of them
very nice.
No, some of them are just meant to fulfill a specific purpose, at which case at the end of the purpose, they'll fizzle out. Some of them are meant to permanently ingrain in that person, and some of them affect generations. Like, they actually embed themselves into that person's genetic structure and pass on to their children. That's why some people, when they're born and, they just have all this bad luck fall them, it's like, you might have an energy that's kind of been going on through the generations.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I know someone personally that is having that, and I've looked at this person's life and I thought, what is going on that they have this many things go wrong in their life? And I never really thought of that until you just mentioned it. It's a possibility, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Well, our thoughts, they create vibrations around us, and if our thoughts are naturally geared to be negative, you get a lot of your thoughts from your parents. And if your parents are naturally negative and your grandparents are naturally negative, you've got this negative energy that is going down through the generations. And as it goes, it can get really embedded in your system. It can be really hard to break free from.
That's something that you're talking about that, people perpetuate on their own too.
Yep. Oh, the best curses are the type you only gotta, little flick, and you'll do the rest of the work for me. It's like, here, let me just plant a little seed of negativity and now watch it grow. Oh, look, your life sucks. that sort of thing.
So do you charge for this to undo them?
I don't. This is for other people. It's a ethical thing in me. I just don't, because I don't believe in it.
What about undoing them?
Undoing them? Yeah, I'll help people undoing them, and I'll help people to what I try to do is I try to help people find the power within themselves to break the curse, because depending on the curse, some of them are just downright nasty, and some of them you need to change your entire energy vibration. So I'll help them by giving them exercises, showing them different strategies and structures that they can put together in their life, which will help nullify this energy. There's also different rituals you can do where you actually take the negative energy and you transform it into a neutral energy, and then you can use it to empower you or to fuel other positive areas of your life.
How would you know if a person has a curse on them for sure or not?
The energy. I see the energy. I mean, some people can self-curse themselves. I mean, if you're always talking negative about yourself, say, oh, my life sucks, everything's going wrong, everything is horrible, nothing ever works right for me. Well, you're just cursing yourself right now.
Sure. I totally get that.
You can hear it in their words. I can see it in their energy. Some of the deeper curses, you can see it as like blocks of mass and goop and stuff that's actually embedded in their energy. And those ones, they've got to actually come out. They've got to come out, and then the person can start allowing good energies to flow into that space.
So it sounds like you can literally see this energy, like see auras.
Yeah, I can see auras. I actually do aura paintings for some of my clients.
So is that something that you think people are born with, or can they learn to do that? Or
my great-grandmother could do it. I personally believe everybody can learn to see auras. It's not that hard a skill. I actually think that a good portion of children do naturally see auras. We're just taught not to see them. We're taught to unsee them because society is like, oh no, you don't see colors around that person. You just see a person.
Well, yeah, and our focus is trained to not focus in on that. If we do see it, we're taught later to focus it to a point we don't notice it anymore.
Exactly.
Speaking of learning and unlearning, how did you learn all of this? How did you figure all this stuff out?
Oh, I've had many teachers over the years. My family, my great-grandmother, she did it. She was a natural born witch. She had some incredible abilities. I have met other witches over the years who have helped me. I read a lot. I love reading. I'll read anything on any religion. My background, I have taken anthropology classes in university. Love anthropology. I just love learning about different cultures. And basically, I'm just always on a quest to learn. Obviously, my demons have shared different insights and information with me as well. I mean, basically, life is just one big schoolhouse. You're always learning. There's lessons in everything. And if you're willing to go out there and embrace those lessons, I mean, anything can be your teacher.
So in the interview I read that you did for PolarisRising.net, you talked about this left-handed path can be a fairly consuming path, and you can sort of fall prey to the darkness. It sounded a little bit like it was about maintaining and keeping balance. So how do you do that?
Balance is important. Dark energies are seductive, and yes, darknesses can be very dark. You can go very, 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 very dark, very fast. And sometimes darkness can be like a drug in a way. So what you've got to do is you've got to always stay grounded. You have to always come back to your balance. You've got to find your natural balance in you and realize that, it's okay to have the dark side, but you also have to have a light side. You have both in you. You have the light and the dark, and you have to maintain that balance of light and dark. You also have to make sure that your own natural energies are not being tainted by outside forces. So cleansing your energies, purging yourself of all, unwanted or other entities that might have other nefarious purposes for you, keeping energy shields up so that nothing can come at you or influence you, and also boundaries, setting boundaries up with those you work with. So
what would you say to the 16-year-old kid who's listening to this and they're like, oh, I got this, I'm just going to go summon up a demon real quick and I'm going to go, jump into this world head first. Folks like that tend to leap before they look.
Yeah.
How do you suggest that they keep that perspective and that balance?
Usually what I do with people when they first ask me, I give them books to read. I make them read the books by William Walker Atkinson, who also wrote some books under the alias Theron Dumont. And I basically tell them, if you're serious about this is not something you want to dabble in. This is not something you want to play with. This is not a game. This is not, Sunday night Ouija board, wahoo. This is serious. If you are serious about this, you need to learn, you need to understand, and you need to keep learning. And the second you say, I know it, you don't know anything.
Okay, that sounds like good advice. So have you sold your soul? If so, what did you get paid for it? Can I sell mine and then buy it back? Is there some kind of soul layaway program?
I want to refer a friend too.
Right.
That's another misconception. We don't sell our souls ever. And if an entity asks you to sell your soul, run, because it's not an authentic demon. It just wants to get into your energy so it can start eating you.
Does anything really want your soul in the first place? I want to know that.
Yes, there's the sludge entities, as I call them, sludge entities, sludge tricksters. They want to get into your energy field so they can start eating you.
So they can feed off your energy, really.
Yeah. That's basically what they want to do. And they're usually the ones that cause like the possession problems and everything, because they get into you. They start to take control. They start to have fun. They enjoy causing chaos and despair to you and to all your loved ones, because everything, all that negativity is feeding them.
Who are they? Where do they come from? What's their etymology?
I have no idea. I won't go to that realm when I asked for project. That realm is off limits. There's certain places in the spiritual world I won't go to because the energies get too dark and they get too corrosive. Different types of dark energy will actually cause damage to me and can actually damage my human vessel as well. So I stay away from those.
But you talked to, you said Satan. You said there's a worse entity than Satan?
Yep.
Another misconception, apparently, then. Tell us a little bit about this.
Satan he's a demon. I mean, he's got demonic energy. Demonic dark energy is very beautiful energy. It's actually a very pure energy. I mean, they can be very dark when they want to be. They can embrace these things and they understand a lot of these other dark creatures, but their energy is nothing compared to some of these sludge creatures out there. They're just like awful. The demons are they can understand it, they can see it, and they can also destroy these other beings, which is very helpful, but they still have a choice.
They can help you or hurt you, right? I see what you're saying. They have free choice.
Yeah, that's the very big thing. They have free choice. Some demons I wouldn't work with because they're not so nice, but they're kind of like humans in that aspect. Some of them are great, some of them are horrible, and some of them are Hitler. You know?
So if someone's in some sort of spiritual crisis, they've got some kind of, sludge entity or soul sucker attached to them, do you step in and try to help, or do you just kind of get popcorn and sell tickets and make it good theater?
I will step in and help in some situations. And there's some situations where people, they get attached to their sludge. They like it. They like this entity being on them. They like the drama it causes, and they don't actually want to change. In those situations, there really is no point in stepping in because they're just going to invite another one back in a few months later. You'll get it off. They'll be happy. Then they'll miss their sludge. Then they'll invite it back in. They're not making a conscious effort to actually change. They're just looking for drama. In situations where people want to change and actually, are really suffering and really they want this thing gone, yeah, I'll step in and help.
So do you teach people? We talked about that a little bit, but do you have, some sort of formal setup or, something along those lines where a program or something where you take apprentices or, you adopt some new Sith Lord and grow them up into a big Sith Lord?
I don't take apprentices, but I can't talk today. Apprentices, but what I do is I run an online forum, and I answer people's questions. I help to guide them as best I can. I help to teach them what I know. I share with them different resources, different books, and each person is individual. They're on their own path. They come in at different stages of knowledge. So really, I just try to be there as a guide for them. If somebody is really hurting, I'll try to help them and work with them a little bit more in a one-on-one scenario. But for the most part, the forum and the community that we've created, we all kind of step into the role of, okay, well, people post their questions, so we're going to answer their questions. We're going to give suggestions. We're going to say, okay, this is what I would do in this situation.
So in that forum, in that community that you built, how do you keep the folks out that are just batshit crazy as opposed to the people who are really there for spiritual growth?
It's pretty easy to tell. Some people come in. We haven't really gotten very many people that want to convert us, or that, a lot of the times, define batshit crazy. Some people are really hurting, and they're only hurting because, they've been abused. They've had these horrific childhoods where they've been beaten up. And it's like, we don't really discriminate. It's like, you know what, if you're coming in and you're really hurting and you say some dark things, we're gonna provide support for you, you know, assuming you don't cross some lines. I mean, obviously there are certain ethical lines that we can't touch. Like if somebody comes in saying they're gonna kill somebody, okay, yeah, we're gonna, you know, take some different actions of finding out where they are and making sure that, you know, the authorities are warned. Or if they come in saying that they're gonna kill themselves, yeah, we'll be, you know, phoning some helplines for them. But I mean, really, for the most part, we just offer support to some people who are really hurting.
Kind of I think what he was kind of trying to ask was, you know, with any kind of a group, you always have some riffraff that comes in and they kind of pretend they're doing things, but they're not. And they, like you said, though, that's kind of, when you're on a spiritual path, that's easy to see people like that. People that aren't on a spiritual path wouldn't probably understand that, though.
I can think of there's a few instances, but really, it's pretty easy to tell, because when you come from a teaching approach, it's like, okay, well, I'm having these problems. Okay, we'll read these books. They come back a week later. I'm still having these problems. Well, did you read the books? No. Well, why not?
That seems to be a very contagious problem these days.
Yeah, and it's like, well, why are you coming back and asking for help? I gave you my solution. Read the books. Go read the books and you'll feel better. You know, that sort of thing. Well, or go read the books and come back and ask me some questions on the books, and then we'll take it to the next step. I mean, when you work with anybody, there's steps you've got to follow. And when you're a teacher, you teach from your end, and then they've got to come and meet you halfway. And if they don't meet you halfway, there's no point in going forward.
So to go back to Polaris Rising's website and discussion forum, there's a very popular and sort of controversial subject they bring up there. And I know this is sort of a weird subject for you to talk about, and you've got your own opinions. But what about the topic of spirit keeping? What is that in your own definition?
Spirit keeping. I actually call spirit keeping more as working with a spiritual companion or finding different spirit guides to help you of varying different spiritual species. To me, it's basically when you form a connection with an entity or a spirit or a being from another realm, and you begin working with them on a close, intimate level, learning from them, and you learn from each other, and you grow together in a way, and you benefit from the lessons and the lessons and the energies that they share with you, and they benefit from you in various ways depending on the spirit. That's kind of my definition of it.
So I think the mechanics of that differ a lot from what a lot of what you're describing. A lot of people think of it in a different form or a different construct. And why would someone want to keep a spirit?
Well, basically, you're not really keeping the spirit. You've got a connection to that spirit in the form of a binding, which is like a focal point where their energy is connected to. So you have like a piece of jewelry or a stone or something where that being's energy is. So you can connect with them and you can work with them. I mean, why would you want to? It's kind of like we are a spiritual being having a human experience. So connecting with different spirits and different entities, we get a sense for different realms and different worlds that are out there. I mean, the possibilities are limitless, really, for education and learning when it comes to working with different species and different beings. So why wouldn't we want to work with them and keep bindings of them? So
what kind of training or rules are necessary to do this sort of thing? Because it sounds like it's a fairly in-depth kind of process.
You mean the binding or the conjuring?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're conjuring, basically you've got to find a place where you've got to meet spirits and entities that actually want to work with you, that actually want to work with humans. So you've got to be able to know how to go out there, how to find them, how to make the connection, how to authenticate what type of being they are. I mean, some of them, like I talked about Sledge tricksters earlier, they like to pretend they're something else. You also have to find out, what's the temperament of this spirit? Do they actually want to work with a human? Are they going to be crazy? And what do they want to, what's their intention? What's their underlying agenda? And you've got to have a way to bring them through. You also have to have a way to learn as much as you can about them, including the energy that they have. And then you've got to craft these connections, these bindings from them to the vessel. So you've got to know how to work with the energies. You've got to know how to make the connections. I mean, it's a process.
How long does a typical binding, like you're explaining there, how long does a typical situation like that take to finish?
From start to finish, I usually take about, from the time I meet them to the time I bind them. I mean, it can take, let's just say a month.
It depends on the person, I'm sure.
It depends on the spirit. It depends on what they are. It depends on their energies. It really depends on them. Each one is different, and each binding is different. I have to basically assess their energy and craft the binding based off of that individual energy.
So do you consider this practice dangerous or treacherous, especially from the perspective of the uninitiated?
From the uninitiated, if you don't know about it, don't get into it. Read. I mean, anything when it comes to the spiritual world, you don't just dive in headfirst. Read, learn as much as you can, educate yourself as much as possible, and then when you are feeling completely comfortable at your core, then start to step in and get your feet wet. But really, in the beginning, everybody should be reading and educating, have basic knowledge of spiritual foundations, have basic knowledge of different spirits, different entities out there, and really, do everything they can to educate themselves and ask questions of the people who do conjure and bind. Don't be afraid to approach them and say, hey, can you answer these questions? I mean, most of us are pretty friendly.
So is this like a paid service you provide for consultation, or what if I just come to you and say, hey, I seriously, all BS aside, what if I want to work with one of these entities? How does that work for you?
I'm in the learning stage. The questions are asked on the form. Anybody can sign up for the form. I mean, if you actually want to acquire one, yeah, it is paid. Just because it takes a lot of time to bind and to craft these bindings and to actually, authenticate the entity, to make the connections with the entity. I mean, basically you're paying for the person's time. It's like paying for a spell being cast.
So what's the sort of interview process like? What are the type of questions that you ask?
When I first meet, first off, I have to find a realm where I can find entities that want to come through and work with humans. So that involves some exploration. Once the exploration is completed, I set up kind of a portal between that realm with certain contractual obligations. Like, nobody comes through that wants to mass murder anybody. We want people who work with humans. We want people who will hold the greatest good, or not the greatest good, hold the greatest good as well, but also hold the intent of helping the human grow to their potential. Like, that's one thing that's really important for me, is I don't want somebody that's going to mercilessly test somebody. I want somebody that's going to help somebody actually grow. So I really make that clear in the first stage of the interview. Then when they come through, I have to authenticate their energy first. I have to make sure that they are what they say they are. So that involves scanning, asking them questions, certain rituals designed, if they are a trickster entity, to assume their normal form. Then after that stage of the game, I start to work with them and learn about them as an entity, learn about them. And I also, during this time, I'm cross-comparing what they're saying with what they've said in the past, and also with the intent of the energies that they're sending at me when they communicate. Once we get through that stage, I actually will work with them and fuse my energies with them, and get a sense of who they are, and then write out the information, and then I'll know what their energies are all about. I'll begin crafting the bindings, and then create the binding, and then another few interviews, just finding out some little details about them. That's kind of the process from start to finish.
Okay. That's the interview process for the entity. What about for the person that wants that attachment?
The person. Well, I really want to know, first of all, how much experience they have. Some people, when they come to me, it's like, no, you need to read a bit more. You can kind of tell with the questions they ask. If they come and they say things like, I want a demon and will they serve my every will? You're like, no. Go to the form, read.
Right.
It's basically, it comes from, like, a lot of the people are my forum members. And so I have a general sense of what they're about. I have a general sense of their path. I have a general sense of their experience level. And also I can hear it, or not hear it. I can sense it in the energies of their posts. I mean, really, it's very individual. Each person is an individual, and I take each person as an individual.
So probably the most important question I feel like I can ask you tonight is, does the dark side really have cookies?
Yes, and they're delicious.
Are they chocolate chip? Or are we talking white macadamia nut? Or
all the cookies all mixed into one flavor.
I think it depends on how you craft the cookie. In all trueness.
This is true. This is true. We've got many cooks on the dark side. They all make different cookies.
So if people want to get a hold of you, or they want to learn more about you and what you do, how do they get a hold of you?
Best way is through my forum. There's also a contact form on my website, which the website is satanandsons.com. That's the store website, and then the forum website is satanandsons, SUNS.com.
Okay.
Either ways, those are the best ways to contact me.
James,
Okay.
you have to tell her what you had written on your bedroom door when you were a youngster.
That's been an ongoing joke with me forever. So my number, the number I identify with, is 667.
Yeah.
Not the number of the beast, but the neighbor of the beast.
That's awesome.
It was quite a funny joke at school.
Yeah. I'm not the number because, I was the dark kid who everybody misunderstood. And yeah, I relished in that role too, because it let me weed out the people who were pretentious. If they were going to judge me for what they thought I really was, I didn't really want to talk to them anyway. So
Yeah.
the people who would see through that and really talk to me, I was interested in.
Well, for example, when I first met James, he growled at me. And I was just like, okay, he growled at me. Cool. I'll sit down and see what this dude's about.
I can so identify with that because I'm the same way. It's like, if you want to get to know me, that's cool. I'm completely open. If you want to judge me or not, see through me or put labels on me, it's like, okay, well, that's your prerogative. You can go live off in your world. It's, I don't really.
Some people seem to have a problem that other people are doing stuff they don't want to be a part of or they don't agree with. And I really don't identify with that too much.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand it. It's like, why am I focusing on something that really doesn't resonate with me? Why am I putting my attention there when I could be putting my attention on what inspires me, what drives me, what motivates me?
That's an excellent way to look at it, I think.
I mean, I'm the same way with people who, and a lot of people that say, oh, I get all these Christian people trying to convert me. I don't get that because I don't engage that. It's like, you know what? I'm not trying to convert anybody from Christianity, and they can't convert me because I'm comfortable in my own skin. If they don't like that, that is their problem.
That's exactly why you're not attracting it.
Yeah, it's like I just don't, or I do talk to people who are Christian, and we have a good conversation and end up laughing about our different paths because it's like when it comes down to it, there is a divine source out there. There is, this divine energy. And really, there are so many different paths up there. Why do we have to fight? Why can't we just accept the fact that some people need to go this way and some people want to go this way?
I sort of, I call folks like that fluffy pagans. So there's this mentality, and I saw it when I was a kid, right? So there's this, before emo was the word we used to describe these kids, the people who would do that were interested in the left-hand path. They didn't know that was the word for it, but they were interested in that sort of subversive truth, more for the attention. And you can tell those people right off the bat, they're the people who are wearing around their neck the flaming, blinking, burning neon pentagram because
the sign that says, I do something different than everybody else, so look at me and notice me.
But they're trying to evoke a reaction,
True, that's true.
It's not their true path, and a lot of people like that, in my opinion, especially the younger crowd. They're into it because it's what pisses off their parents.
Yep.
Yeah, they're just kind of using it for their purpose.
It's a serious path. I mean, if you're working with really intelligent, really powerful, and they can be really dangerous beings, and you've got to know how to work with them. Some demons, and if you look at the old evocation rituals, they're horrid. They're harsh, they're nasty, they're mean. I mean, you're basically commanding this incredibly powerful entity and binding them in a triangle and saying, you're going to serve me or else I'm going to hit you with this blasting rod. And people wonder why they got hurt. Well, those rituals still exist out there. And a lot of people don't know, well, that's really not a safe way to approach them. It's really not a nice way to approach them either.
They're really crude then, and they've been refined over time, I'm assuming, from what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in demonology, we approach them with respect, great respect. It's more of an invitation to join me, an invitation to seek counsel with this entity and learn from them.
How big is this community that you're involved in?
It's not super big, but I mean, I'm sure it's not as small as most people would think. It's growing.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are naturally drawn to darkness, but they don't understand. They don't know where to even begin. So there's a lot of websites and resources out there that are kind of seeking to help that. But it's hard to tell exactly how big the community is. Some people are not there because they want to walk the path. Some people are there just because they want to learn and they want to participate. And that's cool too. I mean, we have people from all paths, all walks of life, and we don't judge. And it's like, if you're here, the only thing we ask is that you be respectful. This is what we do. If you going to just sit there and try to convert us, well, that's not nice. But if you're going to actually, ask genuine questions and, come at it from a place of, okay, well, I'm not on this path, but I'm curious. That's cool. We'll answer your questions.
So sort of in closing, what advice would you give to people who are listening to this and they sort of for the first time go, okay, I've always felt this way. This resonates with me. I didn't have a name for it before. Where do they move now that they've identified this?
The path is demonology. Demonology is a very good place to start. There's a lot of demonology sites out there. Demonologists, they really are, when they work with demons, they're very respectful. They have a lot of structure and methods, and it really can be a good place to start. They also teach about, the different dark lords, their different sigils, which the sigils is basically kind of like the energy signature of them. So it is a way to contact them and get in touch with them. Also, their demonic ends, which is a chant that, again, like the sigil, is a way to connect with their vibration. And it's really quite a safe path to begin to search because it is a very respectful, gentle approach that doesn't, slam it in your face that you've got to be this dark, evil, sinister creature.
Okay. Keith, anything else you can think of?
No, I don't really have any other specific questions. I mean, you did a really good job of articulating that. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing for our listeners. And a lot of people don't want to talk about this thing. If they are into it, they want to just hide and keep their knowledge to themselves for fear of being judged because a lot of people have preconceived notions about this. So I think it's important that we at least get the information out there and let people decide for themselves what they want to do.
Yeah, I understand that because it is hard to step outside of this comfort zone and really talk about it, because it is true. It has a very, very, very negative association in today's world, which it's changing, which is nice. I mean, things are starting to open up. It's starting to be more accepted. It's starting to not be such a big deal, but it still's got that negativeness to it, and people still kind of look at you funny, like you're gonna suddenly sprout wings and claws.
So that's where we're going to wrap up our discussion with Akelta Wilde. Again, we want to thank her for taking the time to join us. We certainly, Keith and I both found it educational. We enjoyed hearing about her views and perspectives. Don't know if it's the path for us, but it's certainly educational. For anyone who would like to contact Akelta, we recommend you go to her discussion forum, satanandsons.com. That link will obviously be in the show notes. Lastly, if you or someone you know is someone we should talk to, someone we should help get the word out about, please feel free to contact us through our website, higherconsciousnessradio.com. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.